Meanwhile, the minister was a guest on Arise's The Morning Show earlier on today and spoke about landmark beach and resorts here in Lagos, which have become an issue of public interest over the Coastal Road project.
Landmark issue. I'm told, and that's the claim of, Eco-Atlantic, that even where landmark, is situated, belongs to them. Okay? But that is not supposed to be my business. I went to see landmark yesterday. I had to tour that shoreline, and it's not the only one that is involved. That's me yesterday, and that's landmark. So we had a very good chat. At the end of the day, I demanded for Cook, for him to know that I came in peace. But I just went there to, understand something, His Excellency says that 12,000 jobs will be lost. And I told Landmark, by what we are doing, that no job will be lost. What could be lost is the shoreline and people that go to play at the shoreline. But his facilities are all intact because we reduced the corridor to 50 meters. And so I saw it, there's no permanent structure other than few shanties along that shoreline that is affected.
Have you recently done that? Because they were
I said I was there yesterday. You can see me with Landmark yesterday. Darkening this council without knowledge, just eating up the system. No single job will be lost because all his distance are all very much intact. There is no single of them that is to be demolished. Who owns the land is not supposed to be, my problem. But the federal government, by the act, about the waterways and the recent Supreme Court judgment, gave the right of ownership of the shoreline to federal government, 250 meters from the point of the shoreline to federal government. So, which means the land belongs to federal government. But we are interested here because we're talking about investment, and we are happy with investment, but we are taking 15 meters of that shoreline, and it's irrevocable. And I've told him that if you are interested in the waterways, you can create one on top.
Now, for the emerging controversy and the need for more transparency in the execution of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, we're now being joined by Kalu, a lawyer and chairman, Independent Media and Policy Initiative, and of course, Niyi Akinsiju. Good day, gentlemen, and a warm welcome to Newsday. All right, I will start with you, Barrister Kalu. Regarding the original master plan for the Lagos-Calabar Highway, what is your understanding of the current narratives on the issue from a legal perspective?
Thank you for having me. Just like you asked the legal perspective to all that is happening in the stories we are hearing on Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road. First of all, let's lay the legal foundation on this. By Section 81, Sub 1 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended, provides for an appropriation of all the expenditures of the government for the next fiscal year. And by that appropriation, by the National Assembly, it now empowers the federal government to expend the resources of the nation on projects approved by the National Assembly. That is one. The implication is any project not approved by the National Assembly cannot get the spending from the resources of the federal government. That is one. And even if there is an approval or an appropriation on projects to be executed by the federal government of Nigeria, there is also a statutory provision in that regard. And what is the statutory law in that regard. It is the Public Procurement Act of 2007 that gives the guideline or the procedure on the appropriated projects by the National Assembly, the procedures that should be taken before the federal government or any procurement or procuring entity should go into the execution of those projects. Having laid this legal foundation, the question now is the Lagos-Calabar coastal road appropriated in the 2024 Appropriation Act? That's the first question. Or in the previous Appropriation Act, that is 2023, was it contained in the 2023 Appropriation Act? If the answer is no, from where did the federal government or the procuring entity, which is the Ministry of Works, derive its powers to start the execution of the Lagos-Calabar coastal road? That is the first question we want the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu to answer Nigerians. Two, if there is an appropriation in that regard, the projects pass through the Procurement Act. And going by what the Minister of Works, my elder brother, Engineer Dave Umahi, has said in several fora, in several interviews, by this media organization, by Channels Television, and other media organizations, you see that there are inconsistencies in what the minister has been saying. And if there are inconsistencies in what the minister has been saying, it means that there is problem somewhere. It means that the entire project is shrouded in secrecy. Because going by what they have been hyping this project to be, it means that this is one of the major projects by the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. If there is an appropriation for this project, the Appropriation Act is there. How much was it? How much was budgeted for this project? You will say 1 million naira, 1 trillion naira was budgeted. It's there, very clear. Then if it is not budgeted, you tell Nigerians it is not budgeted. That's on one breath. You cannot in one breath, in an interview, say that the cost is 4 billion naira per kilo, 4 billion naira per kilometer. In another breath, just this morning, because I watched him live in Channels Television, he said for 1 kilometer, you get 4.39 billion naira for 1 kilometer.
Yes,
inconsistencies.
Yes. And for the sake of time, allow me to interrupt. For the sake of time, allow me to interrupt. We did see the interview as well. Mr. Akinsiju, thank you for your patience. What are your opinions on how this is playing out as well? Not from a legal standpoint, but maybe even from a social and economic standpoint. What could this entail?
Well, thank you so much for having me, and the opportunity, of course, to engage with my brother here, a lawyer. And I wonder if it's actually appropriating the skill of a lawyer, or excuse me, don't let me finish that. But the truth of the matter is, one, I thought it would be affirmative to say that indeed the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road, and perhaps we also want to correct that. It's actually now both Coastal Road and Coastal Railway, combined. So it's not just, we are not just talking about a road now. We are talking about two projects in one, Coastal Road and Coastal Railway. That is one. Then two, I thought he would want to be affirmative about the fact that indeed there was no provision, in the 2024 Appropriation Act and the Supplementary Appropriation Act, as it were, 2024. I want to confirm that indeed there is, a provision for 1.06 trillion in the Supplementary Act. That's the 2024 Supplementary Act. And three. The procurement processes were followed appropriately. As a lawyer, perhaps he had not read to that extent. In the 2007 Public Procurement Act, there are three different provisions, for processes of procurement. You have what you call the open bidding, you have the restricted bidding, and you have the emergency bidding. The restricted bidding says clearly that whereupon the supplier or the provider of a service is known to be restricted, in terms of professionalism, in terms of capacity or competencies. The procuring entity would identify and invite such a company to come and bid, in a restricted process. So it's when you're talking about the Public Procurement Act, you do not limit it to the open bid alone. So if you go to section 40, between section 40 and 42, you have those other two procurement processes. And of course, as the minister explained, I think we only need to amplify that, ITEC is already established as a brand, for using reinforced concrete, and of course for engaging challenging terrains like high water tables, land, and beaches. We know what it did with the Ahmadu Bello Way in Lagos on Victoria Island. And of course, I am personally overwhelmed anytime I am passing through that area, and I also saw the Atlantic City. And these are huge projects on water, on ocean. And if you have a company that had been able to deliver on that, that's the kind of company you engage in this challenging, as it were, terrain, 700 kilometers beach line of road. So to a large extent, I do not see the issue the issue of confusion in this matter. I cannot understand it. I cannot understand why the lawyer here or the Atiku camp will be raising so much dust, over a clear matter, either in terms of law or in terms of practice.
Indeed, Mr. Akinsiju. Now, Barrister Kalu, still on the coastal road, the Lagos State government says there will be no compensation for buildings without physical permit on the construction corridor that will be demolished. And one wonders, why weren't defaulters sanctioned earlier, before now, before this project, you think?
First of all, let me clear an issue my friend and my brother just raised on issue of procurement. And he said he can say positively that the project cost of this project is captured in the Appropriation Act. If it is captured in the Appropriation Act, why is the minister coming out with various figures on one project? In one breath, the minister will say it is a PPP. In another breath, the minister will say it is EPC plus F. That is engineering, procurement, construction, and finance. In another breath, the minister will say the project will cost $4 billion per kilometer. In another breath, the minister will say it will cost 4.39 billion naira per kilometer. Inconsistencies on a project that is captured in an appropriation act, which means the project is shrouded in secrecy. And anything that is shrouded in secrecy is prone to fraud. That's one. Two is he made mention of types of bidding process, and that this particular process fell under restricted bidding process. It's not true. It's not true. The law is very clear on this issue of bidding, that every bidding must be, okay, let me even cite the provision of the Act. By Section 15 of the Procurement Act 2007, it says, all the procurement by the government shall be banned by the provisions of this Act. Then, by Section 15(2) of the Act, it now gave exceptions to the procurement process that are not banned by the provisions of the Act. It says, procurement of goods, services, and works that involve national defense or national security. These are provisions of the Procurement Act. And it goes down to Section 16 of the Procurement Act. And it says that all public procurement must be conducted in a manner that will ensure transparency. That's one. Two, must be conducted in a manner that will promote economy of the nation. These are the provisions of the Act. Now the question is, this procurement they're talking about restricted bidding. Is the process transparent? If the process is not transparent, then it runs foul of the Procurement Act. That's one. Two, if the procurement does not promote the economy of the nation, it runs foul of the Procurement Act. And today, we are asking, how much is the cost of this project? Until today, the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu has not come out to say this is the cost of this project. A project they are saying is captured in the Appropriation Act. All we are saying is, if the foundation is faulty, that is, in breach of the Procurement Act, every other thing they have done in that process is a nullity. And it will be challenged in court. And at the end of this program, before the end of this program, we will give all the appropriate authorities notice to give to Nigerians, to produce to Nigerians the agreement. Because you cannot start a project of such magnitude without a contract paper. Where is the contract paper? What are the contract terms? What are the contract sum of the project? That is the issue. Forget about all this rigmarole by the government of Ahmed Bola Tinubu. We are demanding, let Nigerians see the contract paper. They have awarded the contract to a partner, to the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in the person of Gilbert Chagori.
Mr. Kalu.
Company, that is a high-tech construction company.
Let me interrupt you again and allow Mr. Akinsiju an opportunity to respond to some of the things you just said, and also ask him about the question of compensation and whether or not he foresees this going to court. So, Mr. Akinsiju, your response.
This is not a matter of fire and brimstone. It's about facts and figures and what is related in the law. My lawyer friend has copiously referenced Section 15 and all that. I specifically referenced Section 40, and he said it's not true. I think that is even unethical. As a lawyer, I would have expected him to talk to Section 40 that I referenced. Then we would then know the basis of my position. So if he knows the law so much, let him go to Section 40 of the Public Procurement Act 2007 and see under which conditions or conditionalities a restricted tendering is allowed, bid tendering is allowed. I don't need to answer that again. And talking about the cost, I didn't say that was the cost. I said a provision was made in the Supplementary Appropriation Act, and I said it was to the tune of 1.06 trillion. Whatever the minister was saying, I wouldn't know, but that is a figure in the act itself, and your grouse or your grudge as it is with either the figures were quoted in the Appropriation Act or not. I mean, we only end up distracting ourselves in this country because we are lazy to pursue knowledge. I am a researcher. When I have an item to research, we call something cross-referencing. If you have an information or a data somewhere, you do not take that data as it is. You cross-reference it with other sources. And by so doing, you are not confused by the position or the submission of some other people. You have your data that has been verified and cross-validated in different forms. And that is our position on that. Talking about compensation, I think the minister too, and the law is also clear on this, that from the beach end, from the ocean end, inward, 250 meters belongs to the federal government. It's law. There's no argument about it. It's a provision of the law. It's a provision of the Constitution. So if anybody had decided to build anything in that threshold of the land, and don't forget, a beach land is premium land. One, because it is beach. Second, because it is acquired by the federal government. So whoever is building along that line is in breach of the law itself. So whatever would happen to whatever would be the consequence of that breach, I am very sorry, is the individual that will have to carry the burden because the law is clear on it.
All right, Mr. Akinsiju just raised some salient points there. Barrister Kalu, I would like your thoughts on the Procurement Act issues relating to Section 40. What do you think of that narrative there?
I'm going to read that Section 40, which he referenced to. Now, that Section 40 says that subject to the approval by the Bureau, a procuring entity may, for reasons of economy and efficiency, engage in procurement by means of restricted tendering if, that's the condition, one, if the goods, works, or services are available only, the word only underlined, from a limited number of suppliers or contractors. That's the first condition. If the goods, works, or services are available only from a limited number of suppliers or contractors. That's one. Two, the time and cost required to examine and evaluate a large number of tenders is disproportionate to the value of the goods, works, and services to be procured. Or C, that's the last one, the procedure is used as an exception rather than norm. So you now see from the provision of the Procurement Act that the only time that the Bureau can call for restricted tender is when the goods, services, or works to be procured is only from a limited number. So in this circumstance, my brother, can you now say that the works or the goods or services to be procured in this respect is only from Chagori? Is it the proper position in Nigeria? When this is a country that is begging, pushing everything to have foreign direct investment. When you open up the bidding for international companies to come in, that means you are opening avenues for foreign direct investment into the country, and you now shut them out. Tomorrow, you will now be talking about how do we do to strengthen Nigeria, to strengthen Naira. When there is an opportunity, before our very nose, what the federal government should do to attract foreign direct investment. But they shut it out because of interest. Everybody in this country knows that the owner of high-tech construction company is Gilbert Chagori. Who is Gilbert Chagori to Bola Ahmed Tinubu? He's his business partner. Everybody knows. His business associate for over 2 decades. They have been doing business together, and at the expense of Naira and the economy of this nation, they shut out the bidding so that their business partner will not get the contract. So by the provision of Section 40, which was referenced by my friend, it has now shown clearly how this government gave this contract to their business partner. Because if they open this bidding, they will not get it. That is why they did not open this bidding for competitive bidding, so that this bidding will enhance the economy of the nation, which is in law. When there is a specific provision of the act of the law and the general provision of the law, the specific provision of the law takes a preeminence over the general provision of the law. This Section 40 is general provision. The specific is on Section 16(1) of the Procurement Act of 2007 that gives guideline on how a procurement should be conducted, that it should be done for enhancement of the economy of the nation. It should be done transparently. And the question is, has this procurement process been done transparently? Till today, it is shrouded in secrecy, and any procurement process that is shrouded in secrecy is prone to fraud.
All right,
and we
Mr.
are
Kalu,
saying, since this thing is shrouded in secrecy and prone to fraud, that Nigerians want this process to take its course. Let the proper procedure be conducted.
Mr.
And
Kalu,
we are saying, it's
Mr.
not
Kalu,
my
Mr.
NGO.
Kalu.
My NGO.
All right, we only
NGO.
have a little bit of time. We've heard, I know you're quite spirited about this subject, but for the sake of time, we have to constantly interrupt you. Let's talk about the business.
This is taxpayers' money.
Right.
Taxpayers' money that they want to give to themselves in the name of awarding contract.
Mr. Kalu, please. Mr. Kalu, please. For the sake of this interview, we ask.
To take place.
We understand that you're coming from a passionate side, but for the sake of the interview, we have to go on with our questions. In terms of the individuals who might be seeking compensation, who have businesses along that corridor, and also for those who have gone and complained about this situation, what do you think their chances in court would be if they were to go to court to challenge the construction of this road, seeing that most of them have been in business on that coastal road for years, if not decades, and seem to have gotten all the necessary approvals before initiating their individual projects?
First of all, okay, is this me or my
Mr. Kalu, it's you. Very briefly, please, because we are running out of time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very brief. The law is very clear that you don't put something on nothing and expect it to stand. First of all, the issue first is there a proper procurement in the first place, supported by law? Then if there is, then we now move into the question you asked. But at the moment, what I can only say at the moment is that there is no proper procedure. And anything done outside the law is a nullity. So that's my answer to this. All until we determine the issue of the propriety of this contract given to high-tech construction company limited, all until the issue is determined whether it was proper or not, then there is no need to even move into issue of compensation or not.
Very good, Mr. Kalu. Now, Mr. Akinsiju is still waiting there. So an average toll fee of 3,500 is being proposed for the usage of the Lagos-Calabar highway when it's been done. That the Minister of Works says in 15 years, the government can recoup its funding of the project. And critics say the budget is still too high, despite the fact that you said, you mentioned the fact that the Provisional Procurement Act of 1.6 trillion or thereabout was the amount for this. But what are your thoughts there? When will this, actually lay the foundations for the usage of the road when it eventually comes into fruition?
Sorry, please let me quickly make a correction. I didn't say that was the cost of the procurement or the cost of the project itself. It's actually more than 2 trillion. But this is the cost for a phase of the project. That is one. Then two, I want to complain, that the station had allowed this gentleman here to make unnecessary imputations, innuendos, and all that. In matters of law, I'm not a lawyer, but I've followed the law, so righteously to know that you do not make imputations, and of course, even going to the extent of defaming the president. In my opening position or submission, I observed that ITEC, I don't know which Chaguri, I know ITEC, had been responsible for taming the Victoria Island bar beach that had been of environmental challenges and headache over so many years. And it did not only tame that beach line, but it has also overwhelmed the beach line by building a huge world-class estate on the ocean, not by the ocean. And by so doing, it established itself using reinforced cement, which is the preference of the Ministry of Works. Nigerian Ministry of Works has been advocated by the Minister of Works himself, using that technology and resources effectively. And of course, he agreed now. It's obvious that he read the Public Procurement Act up to Section 15 and stopped there until I referenced into that. And my reference is that at this Section 40, there is restricted tender, and he saw it there. He accepted it. And every other thing he said are just mere thundering, which is not proper. Now, going to the toll, well, it's economy. You look at your cost, and of course, you look at your recovery rate and your recovery range. I am not involved in that position, but I believe that when economy is involved, there's objectivity in how you add up your figures. So the toll fee could be 3,500 or so, as it were. It depends on what we are talking. Are we referencing it or comparing it comparatively to the US dollar? How much would it be across how many kilometers of road, for instance? We are talking of 700 kilometers of road. Is it appropriate to have such charge? And of course, the cost recovery is not just going to be from the toll fee alone. It's also coming from the shoulders of the road, because once the roads are open, 700 kilometers of beach line are also opened. You have opportunities for real estate. You have opportunities for world-class 5-star hotels. I know that beach lines are natural tourism attraction points. So there are so many opportunities for revenue, either for the federal government, for individuals, and of course, communities, in that area would become beneficiary of these new opportunities, as it were. So, to my mind, the border should not be about the toll itself. It should also be about new opportunities coming in the blue economy, as it were. That road is going to trigger or engineer what we call the real coastal development, system in Nigeria. And it's exciting for me. I can't understand why some people will sit down somewhere with little knowledge and ignorance of what is going, refusal to do their own research, and we'll be talking down on this mega 21st century project that is not just going to impact the national economy, but impact Nigerian people. I want to imagine how many Nigerians living in those communities will be circled out of poverty. I want to imagine how land, property would, beyond the 250 meters of land that belongs to the federal government, the extension of the land into the hinterland in that axis would appreciate, either for real estate or for agricultural activities and all that. And the aquatic economy, 700 kilometers along the ocean, is going to open up. You want to imagine how many ports, shipping ports would also be opened up along that line, facilitating international trade, facilitating domestic trade. We are talking of huge possibilities and potentials here. And somebody is saying he's going to go to court because a process that is clearly outlined in the Constitution and the Public Procurement Act, has been breached by his own thought, by his own thinking.
Indeed.
There's still a headache for people around here, please.
All right, indeed, the concerns and, of course, the economic benefits of this road have been noted. Mr. Niyi Akinsiju, of course, Mr. Kalu would like to thank you both for your thoughts on the controversy over the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway.